From basketball rims secretly lowered by production crews to Stanley Kubrick's unexpected love for street hustlers, White Men Can't Jump hides some of Hollywood's wildest behind-the-scenes secrets. This beloved 1992 comedy wasn't just groundbreaking, it was downright bizarre, featuring everything from gang mediators to deliberate on-set cons. Fact 1. Stanley Kubrick's guilty pleasure basketball obsession. When you think of Stanley Kubrick, the legendary perfectionist behind films like 2001, A Space Odyssey, The Shining, and A Clockwork Orange, you probably don't imagine him sitting down to watch a streetball comedy about hustlers playing pickup basketball in Los Angeles. But according to multiple sources close to the director, White Men Can't Jump was genuinely one of Kubrick's favorite films, sitting alongside classics like Citizen Kane and art house masterpieces in his personal collection. This revelation came as a shock to many film scholars and fans who knew Kubrick as someone who famously obsessed over every frame of his meticulously crafted productions, often requiring dozens of takes to achieve his vision. The man who spent years developing projects and created some of cinema's most visually stunning and intellectually challenging works apparently had a soft spot for Ron Shelton's laid-back comedy about basketball con artists. What made this even more surprising was that Kubrick was notoriously selective about what he watched and even more selective about what he praised. He rarely gave interviews and kept his personal opinions about other films largely private, which made any endorsement from him incredibly meaningful in Hollywood circles. The fact that he placed White Men Can't Jump in the same category as films widely considered to be among the greatest ever made speaks to something he saw in the film that went beyond its surface-level entertainment value. Whether Kubrick appreciated the authentic street dialogue, the genuine chemistry between Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes, or simply enjoyed watching skilled basketball players hustle each other on outdoor courts, we'll never know for certain. But this unexpected admission from one of cinema's most demanding artists proves that even the most serious filmmakers can appreciate a well-executed comedy about trash talk and three-pointers. Fact 2. Rosie Perez got cast because of bad hair. The character of Gloria Clemente, Billy Hoyle's fiery girlfriend obsessed with appearing on Jeopardy, almost didn't exist in the form we know today. When Ron Shelton originally wrote the script, Gloria was conceived as an upper-class white Southern woman, completely different from the Brooklyn-born, sharp-tongued character that Rosie Perez brought to life on screen. The entire casting story happened almost by accident. Perez was called in to read for the role, but on the day of her audition, she contacted Shelton's office and told them she couldn't make it because she was having a bad hair day. Now, most directors would have simply rescheduled or moved on to the next actress, but Shelton found her reason so refreshingly honest and charming that he became immediately intrigued by her personality. Instead of dismissing her, Shelton insisted that she come in anyway, bad hair and all. When Perez showed up and read for the part, her natural energy, distinctive voice, and authentic New York attitude were so compelling that Shelton realized he had been writing the wrong character entirely. He went back and completely rewrote Gloria from the ground up, transforming her from a Southern belle into a streetwise Brooklyn woman who matched Perez's real-life persona. This spontaneous rewrite turned out to be one of the best decisions Shelton made on the entire production. Perez's performance became one of the film's standout elements, earning her widespread critical acclaim and helping establish her as a major talent in Hollywood. Her chemistry with Harrelson felt genuine and lived in, and her obsession with Jeopardy became one of the movie's most memorable running gags. The lesson here is simple. Sometimes the best creative choices come from throwing out your original plan and embracing what's right in front of you. Fact 3. The crew secretly lowered the rim to hustle. Wesley Snipes. One of the most delicious ironies of White Men Can't Jump happened off-screen when the cast and crew pulled off a real-life hustle that would have made Billy Hoyle proud. During filming, Woody Harrelson bet Wesley Snipes that he could dunk a basketball, despite being known as the less athletic of the two stars. Snipes, confident in his assessment of Harrelson's jumping ability, eagerly took the bet. What Snipes didn't know was that while Harrelson was in his trailer preparing for the attempt, members of the production crew were busy lowering the basketball rim from its regulation 10 feet down to 9.5 feet. This small adjustment, just 6 inches, was enough to make the difference between Harrelson embarrassing himself and pulling off a successful dunk. When Harrelson emerged and proceeded to dunk the ball with relative ease, Snipes paid up, apparently never suspecting that he'd been conned. The crew managed to keep the secret, maintaining their poker faces while watching one of Hollywood's biggest stars get hustled using the oldest trick in the playground book. It was essentially a real-life version of the schemes that their characters were pulling throughout the entire movie. The beautiful irony wasn't lost on anyone involved in the production. Here they were, making a film about basketball hustlers who win money by manipulating expectations and using deception, and the crew decided to hustle one of their own stars using the exact same principles. The fact that Harrelson, who played the con artist in the film, was in on the joke made it even better. To this day, it's unclear whether Snipes ever found out about the lowered rim or if he's reading about it for the first time along with everyone else. Fact 4. The Fruit of Islam negotiated gang truces for filming. Filming a movie in south-central Los Angeles and Watts in the early 1990s wasn't just logistically challenging, it was potentially dangerous. These neighborhoods were in the midst of intense gang activity, and bringing a Hollywood production into these areas required more than just permits and insurance. It required serious community negotiation and protection that went far beyond what typical security could provide. Ron Shelton and the producers knew they needed help from people who had real credibility and respect in these communities. That's where the Fruit of Islam came in. The Fruit of Islam, which serves as the security and community outreach arm of the Nation of Islam, went into the neighborhoods ahead of the production crew to have direct conversations with rival gang members and community leaders. These weren't superficial meet-and-greet sessions. The Fruit of Islam negotiated actual temporary truces and agreements that would allow the cast and crew to work safely in areas where violence was a genuine daily concern. They essentially brokered peace deals that ensured filming could proceed without incident, creating a protective bubble around the production that let everyone focus on making the movie rather than worrying about their safety. This kind of community involvement was virtually unheard of in major Hollywood productions at the time, but it proved absolutely essential. The production was able to shoot authentic street basketball scenes in real Los Angeles neighborhoods, capturing the genuine atmosphere and culture that made the film feel so authentic. Without the intervention and credibility of the Fruit of Islam, the film would have either needed to shoot in safer but less authentic locations or faced serious risks to cast and crew safety. The success of this approach demonstrated that Hollywood could work directly with community organizations to create opportunities while respecting the realities of the neighborhoods they were filming in. Fact 5. Shelton wrote 37 pages in one day. Ron Shelton is known for being a meticulous writer who takes his time crafting scripts, carefully developing characters and dialogue over extended periods. He's the kind of screenwriter who might spend weeks perfecting a single scene or agonizing over the exact rhythm of a conversation. So when Shelton sat down to write White Men Can't Jump and cranked out 37 pages in a single day, it shocked even him. The reason for this uncharacteristic burst of productivity was simple. Shelton had essentially been researching this script for years without realizing it. He was a regular player in pickup basketball games all over Los Angeles, spending countless hours on outdoor courts in various neighborhoods, absorbing the culture, the trash talk, the hustles, and the personalities that populated the street basketball world. Every conversation he'd overheard, every player he'd watched work a con, every piece of elaborate trash talk he'd witnessed, and every character he'd met on those courts had been filing away in his memory. When he finally sat down to write the script, it wasn't coming from his imagination alone. He was channeling years of real experiences and real people he'd encountered while playing ball across the city. This deep, lived-in knowledge of the world he was writing about gave the script an authenticity that would have been impossible to fake. The dialogue didn't sound like a screenwriter's idea of how basketball players talk. It sounded like actual conversations from actual courts because that's exactly what it was. The cons and hustles in the film weren't invented plot devices. They were real strategies Shelton had seen players use to separate suckers from their money. That initial 37-page burst became the foundation for the entire screenplay, capturing the voice and energy that would define the finished film and make it resonate with both basketball players and general audiences. Fact 6. Wesley Snipes sabotaged Keanu Reeves' audition. Before Woody Harrelson landed the role of Billy Hoyle, several other actors were being considered for the part, including Keanu Reeves, who was coming off success with Point Break and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. The studio saw potential in pairing Reeves with Wesley Snipes, thinking their contrasting styles might create interesting chemistry. There was just one problem. Snipes and Harrelson were already good friends in real life, and Snipes had zero interest in working with anyone else. When Reeves came in to audition opposite Snipes, he needed Snipes to engage with him and play off his energy so the chemistry between them could be evaluated. In acting auditions, especially for buddy films, the person reading opposite the auditioner typically tries to help them look good, giving them something to work with and react against. Snipes did the exact opposite. According to people who were in the room, Snipes gave Reeves absolutely nothing to work with during the reading. He delivered his lines flat, refused to engage, and essentially hung Reeves out to dry, leaving him, as Snipes himself later described it, out there like dirty laundry. It was a masterclass in passive-aggressive auditioning, done so subtly that no one could really call him out for it, but obvious enough that it killed any chance of Reeves getting the part. The sabotage worked perfectly. Without Snipes giving him anything to play against, Reeves couldn't demonstrate the kind of back-and-forth chemistry that the film desperately needed. The audition fell flat, and the studio moved on to other options, eventually landing on Harrelson, which was exactly what Snipes wanted all along. It's impossible to say whether Reeves would have been good in the role, but we never got to find out, because his scene partner decided to throw the audition before it even started. Snipes got his wish, and the film got the pairing it needed. Fact 7. The director won budget money in a shooting contest. Film productions operate on notoriously tight schedules, and falling behind can cost studios thousands of dollars per hour in crew salaries, location fees, and equipment rentals. When White Men Can't Jump fell half a day behind schedule, the studio executives started getting nervous about the mounting costs and potential budget overruns. Ron Shelton, however, had a solution that was perfectly in keeping with the hustler spirit of the film he was making. Shelton approached a studio executive with a proposition. They would settle the matter with a shooting contest, best out of 5 shots. If Shelton won, the production would get $15,000 added to the budget to make up the shortfall, and they'd be considered back on schedule. If the executive won, Shelton would have to figure out how to make up the time and money some other way. The executive, perhaps caught up in the competitive atmosphere of the basketball-themed production, agreed to the bet. What happened next could have come straight out of the movie's script. The contest came down to the final shot, with everything riding on whether Shelton could sink one more basket. In a moment of perfect Hollywood drama, Shelton hit the shot, won the bet, and secured the $15,000 for his production. This wasn't just a lucky break or a quirky anecdote. It demonstrated Shelton's complete immersion in the world he was depicting on screen. He wasn't just directing a movie about basketball hustlers, he was living like one, using the same tactics of confidence and pressure betting that his characters employed throughout the film. The fact that a major studio executive agreed to settle a budget dispute with a game of basketball rather than through traditional production meetings speaks to the unique atmosphere surrounding this production. Fact 8. Woody was actually better at basketball than Wesley. The entire premise of White Men Can't Jump is built on the idea that Billy Hoyle, the white guy played by Woody Harrelson, is underestimated because of racial stereotypes about basketball ability but can actually ball when it counts. The irony is that this wasn't just acting, it was reality. Despite Wesley Snipes being more athletic, more coordinated, and more naturally gifted physically, Harrelson was genuinely the superior basketball player. Basketball coaches who worked with both actors during production consistently noted that Harrelson had legitimate skills that would have allowed him to play at a Division II college level if he'd pursued basketball seriously. He understood the fundamentals, had good court vision, could shoot with proper form, and knew how to play within the flow of a game. His technique was sound, and his basketball IQ was high. Snipes, on the other hand, was exactly what you'd expect from a supremely athletic actor who hadn't grown up seriously playing organized basketball. He had the physical tools, the speed, the jumping ability, and the natural coordination, but he lacked the refined skills and game understanding that come from years of structured practice and competition. He looked like he should be great at basketball, which actually made him perfect for the role of Sidney Dean, But in reality, Harrelson was the one with the actual game. This created a fascinating dynamic on set where life was imitating art. Just like in the movie where people assumed Billy couldn't play because he was white, people watching them shoot hoops between takes probably assumed Snipes was the better player because of how athletic he looked. The reality mirrored the film's central theme about assumptions and appearances. The casting ended up being more perfect than anyone could have planned, with the actors' real-life basketball abilities matching their characters' arcs in unexpected ways. Fact 9, Alex Trebek's improvised line stayed in the film. The Jeopardy scenes featuring Rosie Perez as Gloria are among the most memorable moments in White Men Can't Jump, perfectly capturing her character's obsessive quest to prove her intelligence and win money on national television. But one of the best moments in those scenes happened completely by accident and left Perez absolutely mortified during filming. When Gloria gives her answer about the volcano that destroyed Pompeii, Perez accidentally mispronounced Mount Vesuvius, calling it Mount Suvius instead. It was a genuine mistake, the kind of flub that would normally result in the director calling cut and reshooting the take. But Alex Trebek, the longtime Jeopardy host who appeared as himself in the scene, was a professional with decades of live television experience, and he instinctively stayed in character. Trebek improvised a line about checking with the judges, playing it completely straight as if this was a real episode of Jeopardy, and there was a genuine question about whether the mispronunciation would be accepted. His quick thinking kept the scene alive and turned the mistake into what felt like an authentic moment from the actual game show. When Ron Shelton watched the footage, he immediately recognized that the mistake and Trebek's improvised response made the scene better, not worse. It felt real, human, and perfectly in character for Gloria, who was nervous and excited about finally achieving her dream of appearing on the show. Shelton refused to reshoot it, despite Perez begging him to let her do another take where she pronounced the word correctly. Perez was embarrassed and worried that people would think she actually didn't know how to say Vesuvius. But Shelton understood that the imperfection made the moment more genuine and more memorable than a flawless take would have been. Fact 10. The Cheers cast crashed, set, and beat the stars. Woody Harrelson was in the middle of his legendary run playing Woody Boyd on Cheers when he made White Men Can't Jump, which meant he was still very much part of that tight-knit television family. One day during production, Harrelson decided to bring some of his Cheers castmates to the set to show them what he was working on and maybe play some pickup basketball between takes. Ted Danson, George Wendt, and several other cast members showed up ready to shoot around and have some fun. What started as casual warming up quickly turned into a legitimate pickup game, with the Cheers actors mixing it up with the White Men Can't Jump cast and crew. These weren't just actors pretending to play basketball for the cameras. This was a real competitive game with everyone talking trash and trying to win. The highlight, or lowlight depending on your perspective, came when George Wendt, who played the perpetually beer-drinking Norm Peterson on Cheers, hit a jump shot over Ernest Harden Jr., one of the actors in White Men Can't Jump. It was the kind of moment that would normally demand immediate redemption in playground basketball culture. You get scored on, you come right back and get your revenge. Unfortunately for Harden, he never got that chance. The production schedule meant they had to stop playing and get back to filming the actual movie. Harden was left without his opportunity for payback, stuck with the eternal knowledge that Norm from Cheers had hit a jumper on him, and he never got to answer back. The incident became part of the film's behind-the-scenes lore, a perfect example of how the competitive basketball culture that the movie depicted infected everyone around the production, turning even casual visitors into trash-talking competitors looking for bragging rights. Fact 11. Biz Markie contributed jokes too dirty for the film. The trash talk and verbal sparring in White Men Can't Jump is one of the film's defining characteristics, with characters constantly trying to one-up each other with increasingly creative insults and wordplay. To make sure the yo mama jokes and insults felt authentic to street basketball culture, the production brought in a consultant who knew a thing or two about creative verbal combat: legendary rapper Biz Markie. Biz Markie, known for his hit Just a Friend, and his reputation as a master of playful hip-hop humor, was hired to write jokes specifically for the basketball trash talk scenes. Actor Kadeem Hardison, who had a role in the film, would call Biz Markie asking for material, and the rapper would deliver joke after joke, presumably some of the most creative and cutting insults he could devise. There was just one problem. Biz Markie's best material was way too dirty for the film the studio wanted to release. The jokes were so explicit, so crude, and so potentially offensive that using them would have pushed the movie from its R rating straight into NC-17 territory. An NC-17 rating in 1992 was essentially a commercial death sentence, severely limiting where the film could be shown and who could see it. The filmmakers found themselves in the frustrating position of having paid for premium content they couldn't actually use. All of Biz Markie's most clever and devastating jokes had to be cut or significantly watered down to keep the film commercially viable. We'll never know exactly what those jokes were or how much better they might have been than what ended up in the final film. It's a reminder that sometimes the best material ends up on the cutting room floor, not because it isn't good, but because it's too good in ways that don't work for mainstream audiences. Fact 12. The video game is legendarily terrible. In the mid-1990s, as the video game industry was exploding and every successful film was getting a game adaptation, White Men Can't Jump received its own digital translation for the Atari Jaguar console in 1995. The Atari Jaguar itself was already a commercial failure, a 64-bit system that couldn't compete with Sony's PlayStation or Sega's Saturn, but the White Men Can't Jump game managed to be terrible even by that console's low standards. Everything about the game was broken. The frame rate was choppy and inconsistent, making it difficult to track the ball or control your player smoothly. The camera angles were confusing and poorly implemented, often leaving you unable to see crucial parts of the court or your own character. The controls were unresponsive and counterintuitive, turning the simple act of passing or shooting into an exercise in frustration. But beyond the technical problems, the game just fundamentally failed to capture anything that made the movie entertaining. The trash talk was gone, the hustler mentality was absent, and the characters were reduced to blocky sprites with none of the personality that Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson brought to their roles. It was basketball in the most generic, joyless sense possible. Video game critics were merciless in their reviews. Multiple gaming publications placed it on their worst games of all time lists, with some reviewers suggesting that it might be the single worst sports game ever released on any platform. The game became a cautionary tale about rushed movie tie-ins and the dangers of developing for a failing console with limited capabilities. For fans of the film, the video game stands as a reminder that not every beloved property translates well to other mediums, and that sometimes it's better to leave a classic alone rather than create something that damages its legacy. Fact 13. Jeopardy used. Gloria's category. 5 years later. One of the most quoted and beloved moments in White Men Can't Jump comes when Gloria finally achieves her dream and appears on Jeopardy, only to request the category Foods That Start with the Letter Q. Alex Trebek's deadpan response that there are no foods that start with Q becomes a perfect punchline, and Gloria's devastated reaction cements the scene as one of the film's highlights. What most fans don't know is that Jeopardy itself eventually brought the joke full circle. In October of 1997, 5 years after White Men Can't Jump was released, the actual Jeopardy television show featured a real category called Foods That Start with the Letter Q during an episode. This wasn't a coincidence or an accident. It was a deliberate reference to the film, acknowledging how the movie's joke had become part of popular culture. The category actually existed this time, proving Gloria wrong in the most public way possible. Turns out there are legitimate foods beginning with Q, including quiche, quinoa, quail, and quesadilla, among others. The Jeopardy writers knew exactly what they were doing by including this category, creating a moment that longtime fans of both the show and the film would immediately recognize and appreciate. This kind of cross-media callback was relatively rare in the 90s, before the internet made pop culture references and Easter eggs a constant part of entertainment. For Jeopardy to acknowledge a joke from a basketball comedy 5 years after its release demonstrated just how deeply White Men Can't Jump had penetrated the cultural consciousness. Rosie Perez's performance as the Jeopardy-obsessed Gloria had created a moment so memorable that the actual game show felt compelled to respond to it, turning a fictional joke into real television history and giving Gloria the vindication she never got in the movie. Fact 14. Nike created signature sneakers from the film-movie tie-in merchandise usually comes out around the time of a film's release, capitalizing on the initial wave of popularity and marketing push. So it was unusual when Nike decided to partner with the White Men Can't Jump filmmakers in 2009, a full 17 years after the movie came out, to create special edition sneakers inspired by the film's two main characters. The collaboration produced shoes designed around both Billy Hoyle and Sidney Dean, each pair reflecting the personality and style of its respective character. But the Billy Hoyle shoes featured a detail that perfectly captured the essence of Woody Harrelson's character and one of the film's most memorable lines. Inscribed on the tongue of the sneakers was Billy's iconic exclamation, "I'm in the fa-ya-igi-eng zone." This line, delivered by Harrelson during one of the film's crucial basketball sequences, had become one of the most quotable moments from the entire movie. Basketball players and fans had been shouting variations of it on courts for nearly 2 decades by the time Nike decided to immortalize it in shoe form. Putting it on the sneaker was a perfect choice, turning the shoes into conversation pieces that true fans of the film would immediately recognize and appreciate. The fact that Nike created these shoes so many years after the film's release speaks to the lasting cultural impact of White Men Can't Jump. Most movie merchandise has a shelf life measured in months, not decades. For a major athletic brand to invest in creating products based on a 17-year-old basketball comedy demonstrates how the film had achieved classic status that transcended its original theatrical run. The shoes became collector's items for fans who had grown up watching and rewatching the movie, proving that great sports films never really go out of style. Fact 15. The best test screenings were in black theaters. Only. Test screenings are a crucial part of the Hollywood filmmaking process, where studios show rough cuts of films to audiences and collect feedback through questionnaires and numerical scores. Directors and producers live and die by these scores, as they can determine whether a film gets more resources for improvement or gets quietly dumped with minimal marketing. Ron Shelton had a complicated history with test screenings, and White Men Can't Jump was no exception. Shelton has admitted in interviews that he never gets good test screening scores, regardless of how successful his films eventually become. His movies, which often focus on character development and authentic dialogue over traditional plot mechanics, tend to confuse test audiences looking for more conventional story beats. He'd grown accustomed to mediocre numbers that didn't reflect how his films would eventually be received by critics and paying audiences. But when White Men Can't Jump was screened in black theaters in Baldwin Hills, a predominantly African-American neighborhood in Los Angeles, something extraordinary happened. The scores went through the roof, achieving numbers so high that Shelton joked they were like a Balkan election, referencing the suspiciously perfect voting results sometimes reported in less than democratic countries. These screenings demonstrated something the studio might not have fully anticipated: the film's authentic portrayal of street basketball culture, its respect for black characters and dialogue, and its genuine understanding of the communities it depicted resonated powerfully with black audiences who recognized themselves and their experiences on screen. This wasn't a white filmmaker's caricature of black culture. It was a film that actually understood the world it was showing. The dramatic difference in reception between general test audiences and black audiences in Baldwin Hills highlighted how crucial authentic representation is in filmmaking and how audiences respond when they feel genuinely seen and respected.